what's everybody? Welcome back to Suka Gue Coffee Channel, Agent of Change episode with Daniele Ricci.
Hi Miki.
Hello.
Hello.
Come stai?
Bene, grazie.
Bene. Nice. So Danny is here. This episode is shot 2 days, 1 day, 2 days after competition. So
Congrats.
It's not about me, guys. It's about this guy. Yeah. So Danny is here for a lot of things, a lot of pop-ups, obviously Oma Cafe, but a lot of other shops as well, right? Ratio, tomorrow you're going to Bandung with Rocky and which other coffee shop?
Blue Doors and
Instinct?
TTKR.
Oh, Makmur Jaya. Yeah. Well, by the time this episode airs, that will be all finished. But yeah, you're traveling and then also obviously helping us backstage, tasting coffee. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Yeah. It's great because then first time we met was probably in Milan?
I think it was Milan in 2021. I might have seen you in 2019 competing, but we didn't know each other.
But you were in Boston?
2018 actually, in Amsterdam. But you didn't compete.
I didn't compete. No.
Okay, then it was Milan probably. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So there was your first Worlds as well.
Yeah.
And then at that point, how long have you competed?
So I started in 2017. So that was my 5th championship.
You started competing in 2017.
Yeah, my first national was 2017.
And
so,
by then, oh damn.
Yeah. It's a long time.
How's the scene in Italy? You do a lot of regionals and then nationals, or?
Yeah, so it used to be a few regionals, and then the top 2 used to go to the nationals, and now it's like we do 3 main pre-rounds: North, Center, and South.
Right.
And the winner plus like a total ranking of the best 10, if I'm not wrong, plus the 2 winners of the 3 winners of the pre-rounds, plus the past champion, they go to the nationals.
So like 16, 17 people?
Yeah, like 12 plus the champion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, something,
right.
12, 13 maybe.
What happens when the champion decides not to compete?
It's just 12 of them, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the champion gets a automatic.
Yeah, to access to nationals. Yeah.
Damn, I wish we had that in Indo.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, I would say.
There was one time I almost didn't get a spot as a defending champion.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Indonesia has a weird, not weird, but definitely has more steps to competing. What
bigger country as well. So.
Yeah, we had hundreds of people wanting to compete. What made you want to compete?
I did it the first time as why not?
Yeah.
And then the very first time was 2016, but I didn't make it even.
Were you already in Mame or?
No, 2016 I was still in high school.
Holy shit. 2016 you were in high school?
Yeah, I was my last year of, oh yeah?
No. 2016 I was 26 years old.
I was 18.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah, so I studied as a why not, and I was like, yeah, let's try, and then didn't go well.
Yeah.
I didn't even make it to the pre-round because we had like an internal thing, competition in my high school.
Yeah.
And I didn't make it, and I was kind of like pissed. So I was like, okay, I'll try that again next year. And then next year I made it to pre-rounds, and I went to my first national. And it was like just putting myself, challenge myself. You know, it was like a good way of getting to know coffee better. Yeah, so that was the main reason.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because then a lot of people think of Italy, at least outside of Italy, a lot of people think of Italy as the birthplace of espresso-based coffee, right? Which is true. Yeah. But it almost has this perception of the coffee in Italy is majority good. Which
I wish it was like that.
No offense, but it's very traditional Italian style, right?
Yeah.
So what made you got into specialty coffee? Because I think as a nation, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Italy, the specialty coffee it's pretty small in comparison to other countries in Europe.
Yeah, definitely.
Or in the world. Yeah.
It has been growing lately, especially during the pandemic and during the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But there is definitely like a big culture, and more like a culture, like a tradition regarding the espresso, like a dark roasted espresso. Although now it's a little going better towards specialty coffee. But yeah, most of the people in Italy still have like a dark roasted coffee, and they still think that
is espresso.
That is the way of drinking coffee, and there's no other way. Yeah.
But what made you got into specialty?
So what happened is I never started in commercial coffee. So I don't have that experience, and that's something that I kind of like miss sometimes, because I would appreciate specialty coffee even more.
Yeah.
But when I started in coffee, after the high school, I immediately went to Bugan Coffee Lab, which is the first which is the first specialty coffee lab in Italy. And
where are they based?
In Bergamo, which is close to my hometown, Brescia. And I went immediately working with them in Bergamo. So then I started working at this beautiful specialty coffee place, and it was just deep into specialty coffee, into knowledge, into like training, competition, stuff like that. So I never had the commercial coffee kind of like experience. That's something I miss sometimes. So maybe I would appreciate coffee even more.
Yeah. Especially, I think, because you're surrounded by this big culture of espresso, right?
Yeah.
But to be able to work in specialty coffee, I guess it's also a blessing, but also it's because when I started with Italian style coffee. You know,
course,
we didn't use scale, we eyeball everything. I still use the doser grinder, and then it was very different. And then eventually made the switch to specialty.
Yeah.
So that's super interesting. And how did you end up in Switzerland?
So first I went to Amsterdam, and I stayed in Amsterdam 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Where were you working in Amsterdam?
I was working for Boca. Boca Coffee Roasters.
Yeah.
And then pandemic happened, so Amsterdam pretty much stopped working in like specialty coffee wise. And I needed to have some change, and I knew Tom back then. I also still know Tom, but I knew Tom. And back then he told me to Tom Ballerin. Hi Tom. He told me that they were looking for a person in Mame, and then I was like, maybe I need some change. I really enjoyed Amsterdam, but I really needed to have like some fresh oxygen and to change something. And then I ended up in Mame pretty much thanks to Tom. I moved there in December 2020 in the middle of the third lockdown in Europe. So it was kind of creepy because everything was closed, takeaway only, a lot of restrictions everywhere. But it went well. So
how different was it, like working in specialty coffee in Italy with all that culture, and then Amsterdam, who also have pretty big specialty
scene. Yeah, for sure.
And then to Switzerland, which is a lot smaller in terms of size, but then because of Mame, it's big in its own way.
I mean, I think there is like even geographically they're very far, Italy and Amsterdam, they're far, but then Switzerland is in between. And even culture-wise, I think coffee is somewhere in between Italy and the Scandinavian, like Nordic, North Europe countries. Because Amsterdam is pretty much a lot of filter coffees, a lot of specialty coffee. We all know Fried Hats, and Boca is also very famous. Rumbaba, many other roasteries, and coffee there is felt in a different way. It's felt as let's go to grab a cup of coffee together, but let's go to quality. Switzerland is more like you can have the customer that appreciates specialty coffee, but you can also have the customer that doesn't care. So it's something in between, because Italy is more like, it's very difficult to get specialty coffee into that.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of like adapt, even though it was not super difficult for me, because I was in Boca, which was a very good place, and also Mame, which is an amazing place. And I studied at Bugan, which was also pretty much specialty coffee only. You know, so I didn't have that big adaptation to do. But it was still like a different culture, different traditions, different language, which plays a big role. Also like different lifestyle, because Switzerland has obviously a different lifestyle compared to Italy and the Netherlands. But yeah, I think pretty much the bottom line, they all had like a very nice culture about filter coffees and milk drinks, which something we don't have in Italy. Yeah, and also in Amsterdam. And Italy, as you know, it's just espresso pretty much, and no cappuccinos after lunch. So, that was.
And obviously, you're competing throughout all these changes, right? How different? Obviously, Mame is Mame.
Yeah.
With the powerhouses and the people behind it. How different was that for you during your training and your competition?
Well, when I moved to Switzerland in December 2020, I obviously moved to Mame also because I knew there were people that
could help you.
Yeah, they were ready to help me.
At that point, you're already a world champion. There's
Amy was world champion 2018 Barista Cup.
Yeah.
Mathieu was in the final a few times. Matt just moved. Was Tom? Tom was still working there. So the people that I met in Zurich, they really helped me to approach my first WBC on a different perspective. So I was not worried. I felt like I was safe there. And so obviously they really changed the whole approach to competitions. Being in Amsterdam was a bit more difficult because I used to go back to Bugan Coffee Lab to train. And the 2 years that I competed while I was based in Amsterdam. But in Switzerland it was just easier. Also logistically, I could go to Italy whenever I wanted to. It was like 3 hours by train. Yeah. We even drove from Switzerland to Athens this year, all the way. So it's not, it was pretty easy. Amsterdam was quite a challenge in terms of competition, that's for sure.
Yeah. And then maybe talk us through your training, because obviously different team train differently. The audience here probably pretty used to the way we train, which is show up early. A lot of presentation, a lot of mentality thing, maybe not so much emphasis on coffee actually, but how was it for you in Mame?
So I really started to appreciate and to take care of my energy when I was in Mame training. When I was training in Mame, I remember my first WBC, I was training like crazy because I had the pleasure to train with Amy as well, right? We did a WBC together with you as well in Milan. So I used to train like crazy because obviously I wanted to be as good as her, right? So I used to train like a lot. And then I remember I before going to Milan, I was feeling very tired and very demotivated because I gave it all to the training. So I changed that to my next Italian championship in 2022 into a more schedule, but also like resting sometimes. So that helped me a lot. Also this year, trying to plan the whole schedule in a better way, like not training 12 hours a day, more like 8 hours with a break, lunch break, a proper lunch break, and then a proper dinner break, and then maybe go back again, but like a good amount of sleep as well. That really helped me to go to Athens. And even this year in Athens, I remember after my first round, I remember Mathieu came to me and he said, go home. And I was at the exhibition, and it was the first time for me to leave the exhibition during the competition. So when that happened, I was like, well, am I supposed to go home actually? And Mathieu said, yeah, you go home right now. And then I went home, and then I came back for the announcements, and I was feeling way better for the next day. And I did the same thing on the semifinals, and I was feeling way better for the finals. So that detail pretty much helped me a lot. That's something I really took from Amy and Mathieu. And also the way of training, as you said, it was more coffee while I was in Mame, while before it was more like presentation, maybe a bit of coffee, presentation. So we really took care of everything, from the score sheet to the concept to how coffee had to taste on stage, all the variables, all the parameters and stuff like that. So really, we really took care of absolutely every single detail when I was training with them.
Which aspects of the coffee? Because obviously Mame team, how many finalists you have now from that team?
How many?
6 finalists?
6 probably. 6, yeah.
At least 4.
To Taka, me. Well, Matt almost.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was
something.
Yeah. What aspects of coffee? Because obviously, when you have that many people from the same company being in the final, it's a proof that the system works, not the people, right? So, which aspects of coffee do you think help you guys to be at that level?
I learned how to, for example, to draw a peak of my coffee when it was degassing at the right time. What was the peak? Why the peak was at that time? What's the reason behind? Maybe is it something that happens only in Zurich? Maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's the humidity. Could it happen in Athens? Could it happen anywhere where the WBC is? And also, because I also trained this year, I trained with Dominica, Barista Champion. So I've never done a WBC by myself, training by myself, and that kind of like helped a lot. And I think that like training together, it was for me something that really pushed me forward in order to have like a better understanding of my coffee, but also tasting another coffee next to mine. So when I was training with Amy, for example, we had a Finca Nuguo, I had a Jensen, and we were kind of like judging ourselves. And it was like I was making presentations, and then it was her turn, and then I was one of the judges in her panel. And that helped us to understand better what's the judge point of view. So it was very nice. And this year we did the same also with Dominica. She was judging me, and I was judging her. So it was a sort of like better understanding of the coffee, degassing, of course, but also how it behaves on the machine. Also, like the different profiles of roasting that we did. We did like 3-4 different profiles, and we also had to think about how to store it, vacuum, not vacuum, frozen, not frozen. You know, these kind of things really helped us to understand where the coffee could be at its peak at the end.
How many different coffees did you go through or had as an option before you actually decided on the Finca Milan?
This year it was love at first sight.
In Colombia? You went to Colombia and
we went to Panama, and then in Panama we tasted that
Colombian
coffee on the first day. And I remember it was like, okay, I remember saying to Mathieu and Amy, I want this coffee. I don't
want
care.
anything else. You should have just gone home after that.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, I can go home. But it was my first coffee trip farm.
Cool.
So I really wanted to be there, but it was easier for me because I arrived there first day. We cupped as a calibration, and then I tasted that coffee that Mathieu tasted a few days before in Colombia, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna with this. And then the next 10 days we were going to Jamison, Jensen, Longboard, all the beautiful farms in Panama. And I was like, oh, nice, I have my competition coffee, but I'm still looking for it. You know, maybe, you never know.
Different options.
Yeah, maybe different options. So this year it was like love at first sight. Even though I had some doubts, not doubts, I had some backup coffees that I really wanted to take on stage as well. But I ended up using Finca Milan only also because of the relationship that I had with Andres.
Not because of the name, huh?
Not because of the name. I actually asked Andres to change the name of the farm because Finca Milan is like, it looks like I took it just because of the name, right? But it was this year it was very easy. In 2021 it was a little harder because it was my first time. I didn't know what I knew what I wanted to take. But I didn't know if the judges would appreciate the coffee that I wanted to take.
Right.
So I think we had like maybe 20, 25 different options for me.
Yeah.
And then I remember cupping one day, and Mathieu came to me and said, okay, you said 25 options, maybe you have 3. Meaning maybe you could go with 3 options because all the others are not good enough for the score sheet, not for quality.
Yeah.
So we ended up using Jensen, which I really loved, and was also very high score in the first round. So the coffee was just amazing, and also a Suda Rumé hybrid wash from Las Margaritas, roasted by Bugan.
Yeah.
So I had the pleasure to work with 2 different roasteries in 21. And that coffee was pretty easy to choose as well because we use it only for meal beverage.
Yeah. That was in Milan, right?
That was Milan. Yeah.
Yeah. So you only use one grinder, obviously, and then
We had the EK there.
Yeah. And then Athens, it was
2 grinders.
2 grinders with Mythos.
Yeah.
Did you have to change a lot of the strategy and the workflow because of that?
For WBC 23, you mean?
Yeah.
No, not really, because I used 2 coffees, but I blend them together,
Yeah.
right?
You didn't layer or anything, right? You just
No.
blend everything
Yeah.
together, yeah.
What I did is I ground geisha and then a katura for all the courses, but then obviously mixing them in the portafilter, they were not layered.
Yeah.
So it was not. It was
you
not
did
intentional.
try.
I did try a few times, but it was giving, funny enough, like more inconsistency
Right.
in terms of flavors, clarity of flavors. So we did a very, very intense session. I remember an afternoon with Amy at the roastery, and we were surprised by that. So we decided not to have that extra issue. We just went a little more clear on that.
How did you decide on the grind size? Like, obviously there 2 different densities, different
Yeah.
grind size. Did you dial in one and then try to pull a shot and then decide on that and then do another one, or?
So how much time do we have?
Quite a bit of
No,
time.
so this is. I don't think I never told this to anybody. This is the first time, I think.
Exclusive.
Audience. So I think the afternoon right after so basically we did a morning session tasting with Amy, Amy and Dominica at the roastery, and then I just thought, why don't I layer the coffee? And then I did that in the afternoon, and then we saw the results, and then we were like, okay, today we go home, etc. So we decided to have dinner together, and then they went back home, and I came back to the roastery to pick up my stuff, and then I was ready to go home. And then I saw the machine. The machine was still on because we forgot to turn it off. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna put one extra shot of that coffee, blend it. And I don't know why I just tried to change the grind size.
Yeah.
And the difference was just huge. So I remember it was like 10:30 p.m. That was one of the few nights that I stayed very late at the roastery. And then I think I stayed until like 2 a.m. just trying all different recipes with Caturra ground, coarser, finer, Geisha ground, coarser, finer, what it was gonna give me, TDS, flavors, taste, etc. Long story short, I ended up choosing the grind size of both varieties on that day, but then it was just until the end of the training, because when we arrived in Athens, I had to readapt the whole grinding concept that I had in mind, because the water was pretty different, and also because the coffee was reacting in a completely different way. Yeah. So I remember I talked to Sasha and Andrea that were with me in the car, and I was like, I have to really think about this, because this is a detail, but it can change the whole cup, right? Yeah. So when we did that, it was just completely different, and I was like, okay, this might be something that can help me or cannot. And funny enough, we did change the grind size for preliminary and semi-final, and on the final day, we went back to my kind of like ideal grind size for both varieties.
So you chose the grind size first and then pull it together.
Yeah. So what we did is we
yeah.
dialed what we did in at the roastery in Zurich. We dialed in Caturra, we dialed in the geisha, and then we put them together.
Yeah.
And that was my kind of like idea.
Yeah.
In Athens, we did that. Our coffee was not tasting as good as Zurich. So we ended up grinding the Caturra based on how the geisha was ground, and the other way around as well. And that worked for preliminary and semi-final. While in the final, we struggled a little bit on the practice time. So we tried to go back to my original idea, and then it worked better. So I don't know if that helped, or if with the other technique I would have.
No, that's definitely very interesting, because then it's something that is probably pretty new in barista competition. Because the last time we had two grinders, well, not two grinders. The last time we didn't have this guy was 2014,
15, yeah.
And then for 8 years we had Ike, and then now we have Mythos. So obviously the coffees are very different these days.
Yeah.
Back then it was still pretty normal processing. Now you have all these crazy processes, and the coffees are getting more and more expensive. So you see it a lot in brewers. People layer, people blend, and all that. But then in barista competition, the approach is very different. You have people who layer, like Taka, a little bit of Robusta at the top, just to say that he can say he used it. Oh, I was helping Jen from Thailand, and then they layered as well. You're one of the few people that blended everything together, but still dialed in differently.
Yeah. We did try, but it was not consistently as good as without layering. So we might have had a little more of complexity, but we were lacking of clarity.
Yeah.
So score sheet wise, we decided to go for clarity.
Yeah,
because I had that
easier to call.
Yeah, I had the same issue in WBC 21. The coffee that I took, the Jansen, was absolutely elegant, so complex. It was like a tropical, crazy coffee. But the feedback from the judges was, your coffee is amazing, but it's just too difficult, like too complex.
Accuracy.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, but we are at the WBC. I really want to give you the most complex and elegant and clean cup of coffee that I can make. But that was the output that we got from WBC 21. So this year we didn't want to risk it too much.
Yeah. And in Athens, did the Miros has the new? Was it the newest software yet? The one with the micron size, or? Yeah. So it was pretty easy, because then you can just sort of set, I'm on 120 microns or whatever.
Well, it was easy, for me and Dominica, it was easy because we knew how to...
You dialed in the coffee so much.
Yeah, we knew how to adjust it, and I also took my own grinders. Took it from Zurich, brought it to Athens. So yeah, it was pretty easy for me and for us, I guess.
Yeah, I find that new software is help, and this is not because we're PA brand ambassadors, but the new software in Mythos is very helpful, because then in the nationals I didn't bring my own grinders, right? Yeah. But then I know from training at the roastery,
you can do that.
I know my coffee is somewhere around 150, 160 microns. So with the sponsored grinder, before I put the coffee in, I just move the burst into that setting, and I only need to move maybe half a click,
That's
forward
easy.
or backwards. So it really helps. It's almost like dialing in into Ike, because then the distance, right? You don't have to play around too much. Yeah, great. So now that you're this big shot barista superstar, how did
I don't think I am.
How did your life?
You are the superstar.
How did your life change after WBC? WBC Athens.
Yeah. Well, it got busier for sure. I have the opportunity to travel way more.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for that, because I really like traveling and I really like to get to know many different cultures.
First time in Asia, right? This trip?
First time in Asia, yeah. Definitely not the last one.
Sure.
Definitely not the last one. I mean, pretty much busier, and we had a lot of events, as you said before. planned. Many collaborations happening together at the same time, which is good. They make me busy, but they make me proud of the work that I've done with my team. And yeah, I think it's just, you know, when I go around, I always say that competing is just one of the ways of make a coffee career, and I really want to make a coffee career. So I think competitions really help me, and they're still helping me. And I think what we're having now is like the results of many years of training, many years of trying different coffees, many years of a lot of energy, efforts, and you know how much it takes to compete. So yeah, I'm just grateful for the opportunities I'm having at the moment, to be honest, and I'm very happy to see what's next for me as well, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. All right, so I've been told to wrap this up. What's your, I guess, message for the people who are watching this? We call this segment Agent of Change, because then we talk to inspiring people like you.
Yeah.
I know we shared backstage together many times, and I know the hard work that you put in, but the people who's watching, they might not know that, and they might see this young 26-year-old guy who might look like who had an overnight success, but as you say, you've been competing since 2017,
yeah.
Right? So it's been a few years.
Yeah.
Any final message to our audience?
Well, this is something that I like to say all the times, is like, if you guys are into competitions or not, doesn't matter. Just put yourself on the line, challenge yourself. Mistakes can happen. It happened many times to me.
Like getting DQ'd?
Yeah, getting DQ'd. Let's not go into that too much. But yeah, mistakes can happen. The most important thing is always how much love you put into coffee, and you know, I think coffee is very important for us, but it should be important for all of us, like the whole world. So just put yourself on the line, challenge yourself, and I'm pretty sure that you will see some results, even though you can make mistakes. But the most important thing is always to learn from it. And when I got DQ, I said, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's not a key sentence, but it really helped me to go back to competition. So that will be my message. Yeah.
Great. All right, so we're starting to get people coming in for these sessions. Thank you, Daddy.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing your
Hope
messages.
you like the coffee.
And of course, coffee is great. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.